As you can see, we've stripped the interior of the carpet in the steering column to do our installation. With the template supplied by SST, the template is placed back against the cross brace in the floor and centered on the tunnel. That indicates the area that needs to be removed for the TKO installation. So you simply place the template, draw around the opening, and then cut it out using an air-powered hacksaw or whatever tool you have available. Okay, before you install the clutch, you need to do a test fit of the transmission in order to locate the tunnel metal. This is the tunnel metal that we supply. We've already bent it and formed it to shape. Here's the transmission in the cutout hole. So you just position the metal on the hump, center it around the transmission, mark its position, then you can tack it and weld it into place after you remove the transmission. Alright, as you can see, I'm finishing up torquing the pressure plate bolts. The pressure plate bolts are torqued to 35 pound-feet. The flywheel bolts were torqued to 60 pound-feet as per manufacturer's recommendations. And we used the clutch alignment tool to make sure the disc was properly aligned with the pilot bearing. Alright, as you can see, we've got the TKO mounted on our transmission jack in preparation for the installation. We've filled the transmission with 2 quarts, 20 ounces of Synchromesh transmission oil. We removed the rubber seal ring from the output shaft and installed a slip yoke. That will allow us to turn the input shaft and make it easier once we install the transmission into the clutch. I'm going to shift it into gear. That way the yoke will turn the input shaft at all times. So we're ready to prepare the bell housing and the hydraulic bearing. Okay, previously we have installed the bell housing and done the run out check. Got to make sure that the run out was in proper spec in order for the pilot of the input shaft to work properly and not get excessive wear. So I'm preparing the bell housing for the hydraulic bearing installation. We have a boot which goes over the mechanical clutch opening that seals from dirt. So I'm going to install that first. Make sure the lip is secure around the edges of the hole. So that's ready to go. Okay, now we're ready to install the bell temporarily onto the transmission. Next we take the slave cylinder hydraulic line. We insert that through the boot. The hydraulic bearing installs over the input shaft. Insert the fitting. Install this line finger tight and then rotate the bearing until the hole on the top fits over the stud on the transmission. That stud retains the bearing from rotating once it's installed. And we want to rotate the line to make sure it goes through the center of the boot. That will be the proper installation position. At that point, you can go ahead and tighten the fitting. The hydraulic bearing and bell housing assembly is now ready to install on the car. Okay, now we're ready to install the hydraulic bearing inside the bell housing to the engine. Alright, now we're ready to install the bolts, hardware pack K. Okay, I've torqued down all the bolts on the bell housing, so it's installed. Now we're going to prepare the bearing to receive the transmission. We want to line up the ear opposite the line and push that into the clutch until it catches. So now the bearing is ready to receive the input shaft from the TKO. Okay, now that the transmission is fully seated against the bell housing face, we're going to install the bolts and bolt the transmission to the bell housing using hardware pack A. With the transmission securely bolted to the bell housing, we're ready to install the crossmember and the isolator mount. Install the isolator mount to the transmission with hardware pack H. Okay, I've got the washers on the bolts and the isolator, and we're going to install a 1/4 inch spacer block to get the proper height for the G-body install. Okay, now we're ready to install the crossmember. On the right side, we have a frame extension spacer bar that needs to be installed to the existing frame holes before we install the crossmember. We do that using the bolts from hardware pack P. Install the bolt from the bottom. And then insert the spacer over the bolt. Now we install the short spacer on the driver's side. And the final step in completing the isolator installation is the bolts to the rubber mount using hardware pack B. Today we're going to prepare the speedometer cable for installation. First thing you want to do is remove the cable from the housing. We want to lubricate the cable with the grease that's supplied with your kit. There we go. Okay, that's ready to go. Next, we wanted to install the speedo gear and finish preparation for installation in the transmission. Install the small O-ring over the cable end. Push on the gear that's supplied in your kit, and that's retained with a retaining clip. So now we're ready to install that in the transmission. Now the final step to complete the installation is to do a measurement for the custom drive shaft. So you want to measure from the face of the rear U-joint flange, from the face to the rear face of the transmission. On this install, that distance is 61 1/4 inches.